People always talk about that one perfect moment in their lives, the one they replay over and over, the one that defines pure happiness. For me, that moment was supposed to be the sunset proposal on the cliff overlooking the ocean. The moment where Michael, the love of my life, the man I was certain was my soulmate, got down on one knee. He was perfect. Not just handsome perfect, but build a partner from a catalog perfect. Kind, stable, funny, a fantastic cook, and unbelievably attentive. We'd been together for 3 years, and from the outside, we were that couple. The one where everyone says, when are they finally gonna get married? We moved in together a year ago, adopted a crazy rescue dog named Barnaby, and spent our weekends planning our future, a future that involved a house with a big porch and at least 2 children. My life felt like a Pinterest board of domestic bliss. Michael worked in finance, and I'm an elementary school teacher. We were grounded, we were honest, and most importantly, we were a team. I trusted him with my deepest fears, my silliest dreams, and my bank password. What more could you ask for in a partner? Trust was the bedrock of everything we built. He planned the proposal meticulously. It was our anniversary. He told me we were going on a special dinner date, but instead he drove us an hour out of the city to this secluded state park. The sun was just starting to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery oranges and soft pinks. He led me to a spot that had been cleared of tourists. I later realized he'd bribed the park ranger to give us privacy, and there was a small, elegant picnic laid out. Champagne, strawberries, and that cheese I could never pronounce but absolutely loved. I remember thinking, this is it. This is the moment. My heart was pounding so hard I thought he could hear it over the sound of the waves crashing below. He started talking, and his voice, usually so steady, was shaking a little. He talked about our first date, how I spilled red wine on his favorite shirt, and how he knew even then that I was the chaos he needed in his structured life. Then he reached into his jacket pocket. My breath hitched. He pulled out a small velvet box. Everything slowed down. The wind stopped blowing. The colors in the sky became intensely vivid. He opened the box, revealing the most stunning vintage sapphire ring I had ever seen. My grandmother's birthstone, just like I had always joked about. "Sarah," he said, his eyes filled with tears. Real tears, mind you. "Will you marry me? Will you make me the happiest man alive and be my wife?" I didn't even need a second. I was sobbing, laughing and nodding all at once. Yes, oh my God, yes, Michael, 1,000,000 times yes. He slid the ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly. He stood up, pulled me into the strongest hug, and spun me around. We kissed. It was the best kiss of my life, tasting of happiness and promise. I felt truly, utterly whole. We pulled apart, both beaming, and I held up my hand to admire the ring, which sparkled brilliantly in the last rays of the sun. It was everything I had ever wanted, a true fairy tale ending. And that's when my phone vibrated. I know, rookie mistake. Who looks at their phone literally seconds after getting engaged? But it wasn't a text message from my best friend or a work notification or even a silly spam call. It was an iMessage from an unknown number. Usually I'd ignore it, but the notification bar popped up a partial preview. It started with a name. "Sarah, this is Eric." Eric. Michael's older brother. The quiet, stern one. The one who always seemed to watch me with a slightly suspicious gaze. I barely knew him, but he was Michael's family, and I valued family. I quickly unlocked my phone, thinking it was a congratulatory message that Michael hadn't had a chance to tell him about yet. I opened the message thread. What I saw wasn't a congratulation. It wasn't a happy emoji or a welcome to the family. The text was a single devastating photo. It was a picture of Michael, my new fiancé, the man whose ring was still cold on my finger, and he wasn't alone. He was in bed, completely naked, and next to him was a woman with long, dark hair. Her face was turned toward the camera. It was Eric's wife, my fiancé's sister-in-law, Clara. My stomach dropped like a stone thrown from that cliff. The sapphire ring felt suddenly heavy, burning on my finger. The perfect sunset vanished. The taste of champagne turned to ash. I remember the exact words that followed the photo. They are etched into my brain like a cruel tattoo. He has been sleeping with my wife for over a year, Sarah. She's pregnant, and he thinks it's his. You deserve to know before you make the biggest mistake of your life. Congratulations on the engagement, though. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. My body just went completely numb. The entire world tilted sideways. I stood there, holding the phone, the devastating image illuminating my face. The man who just proposed to me standing 2 feet away, smiling with the joy of a man who thought he had gotten away with everything. The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of the ocean, which now felt like a mocking, indifferent roar. The world had gone silent. Michael was still smiling, his eyes sparkling with a combination of pride and relief. He reached out to take my hand, the one with the ring, and I flinched back as if he had tried to touch a live wire. "What is it, sweetheart?" he asked, his smile faltering slightly, noticing my blank, horrified expression. "Did your mother text you already? I told her we'd call her in a bit." I didn't answer. I couldn't. All the blood in my body felt like it had rushed to my ears, creating a high-pitched, terrifying hum. I just stared at the screen, at the irrefutable evidence. Michael, his arm wrapped around Clara, Eric's wife. The darkness in the photo didn't hide the truth. It highlighted the betrayal. It wasn't a blurry image or a bad angle. It was clear. It was deliberate. I slowly lifted my head, my eyes locking onto his. The transformation in my gaze must have been instantaneous because the joy on his face evaporated, replaced by confusion, then a deep, sickening dread. He knew, somehow, before I even spoke a word. "Sarah? What's wrong? You look—" I cut him off, my voice coming out as a harsh, brittle whisper. "This," I said, holding the phone out, forcing him to look at the screen. I didn't let go. I simply held it rigid in front of his face, shining the light of his own infidelity directly into his eyes. He didn't need to read the text. The photo alone was enough. The blood drained from his face so fast he looked like a marble statue. The smug, happy man who had just asked me to spend forever with him was gone. In his place was a shell of a person, trembling, eyes darting from the phone to me and back again. Where did you get that?" he stammered. It wasn't a denial. It was a panic-stricken question about the source. That small detail, the focus on the source rather than the content, sliced deeper than any lie could have. "Eric sent it," I said, my voice gaining strength, turning from a whisper to a low, dangerous growl. "Your brother." He also sent a delightful message saying congratulations on the engagement and that Clara is pregnant, and you think it's yours. The moment Eric's name left my lips, Michael's composure completely shattered. He lunged for the phone, but I yanked it back just in time. "No! You don't get to destroy the evidence, Michael. You don't get to erase this. I took 2 large, shaking steps back, putting distance between us. The cliff suddenly felt like a very appropriate setting for this scene. Sarah, listen to me, please. It was a mistake. A huge, terrible, one-time mistake. You have to understand. A mistake? I laughed. It wasn't a sound of amusement. It was the sound of my soul tearing itself apart. Eric said over a year. He said she's pregnant. That is not a mistake, Michael. That is a secret life. That is a betrayal that has been unfolding month after month while you looked me in the eye and planned our perfect future, while you helped me pick out paint swatches for the nursery that you already populated with your brother's wife. I ripped the sapphire ring from my finger. It took a horrifying amount of force as my skin was already swollen with emotion. I didn't want it. It was tainted. It was a lie carved out of a beautiful, expensive stone. I hurled it with all the force I could muster. It didn't go into the ocean. It hit a large, jagged rock a few feet away with a sickening clink. And I watched as the perfect vintage setting cracked, the sapphire tumbling free and disappearing into the dirt and shadows. I felt a grim satisfaction. Let the lie shatter. He completely ignored the ring. His focus was entirely on Eric. That bastard. I knew he hated me. I knew he was trying to ruin things. He saved me, Michael, I whispered, shaking my head in disbelief. He saved me from marrying a complete stranger. Tell me. Everything. Don't you dare lie to me one more time. How long? He finally stopped pacing and looked utterly defeated, the mask of the loving fiancé completely gone, replaced by pure self-pity. It started about 18 months ago, right after we moved in together. Eric and Clara were having issues, you know that. He was working so much, and she was lonely. I was just trying to be supportive, to be a good family member. It started innocently, just talking late at night when you were asleep. Then, one night, Eric was out of town and we had too much wine. It was just once, Sarah. I swear it was only once at first. And the baby? I pressed, my voice flat, devoid of emotion now. The shock was giving way to a cold, frightening clarity. He hesitated, swallowing hard. Okay, maybe it wasn't just once. We kept meeting up. Every few weeks. It was physical, nothing more. It meant nothing. You were my future. Clara was just an escape. When she told me she was pregnant 4 months ago, I panicked. She told Eric it was his. I was going to end it, I swear. I was going to break it off, clear my head, and then focus only on you. That's why I proposed tonight. To commit to you, to make it real, to force myself to stop. He tried to spin the proposal as an act of commitment to me, a desperate attempt to fix himself. But all I heard was the chilling truth. He didn't propose out of love, but out of guilt and fear. He was trying to build a fortress of marriage around a lie that was already crumbling. You used me as a shield, I stated. A statement of fact, not a question. You used our engagement to try and bury the fact that you impregnated your brother's wife. You were ready to marry me, knowing you had a child on the way with her. Did you think I would never find out? Did you think Eric would stay silent forever? Michael slumped onto a nearby rock, his head in his hands. I don't know what I was thinking. I love you, Sarah. I truly do. Clara means nothing. She's just convenient. Please give me a chance. We can move past this. We can move away. We don't have to tell anyone. Eric will keep quiet for the sake of his marriage. I looked at him, truly looked at the pathetic, self-serving man before me. The sunset was completely gone now. The perfect golden light had been replaced by the deep, unforgiving blue of twilight. He wanted to keep the secret. He wanted to continue the lie. He still didn't understand the magnitude of what he had destroyed. I zipped up my jacket. "It's over, Michael. You don't get a chance. You don't get to decide what I do with this information. You don't get to decide my future anymore." I turned my back on the man I thought I loved, on the fractured ring, and on the perfect life that was nothing but a mirage. The drive back would be hell, but at least I wouldn't be driving into a lie. The drive back was, as predicted, a masterclass in psychological warfare. Michael tried every tactic in the textbook: pleading, crying, bargaining, and finally, gaslighting. "You're overreacting, Sarah. You're ruining a perfect relationship over a few stupid mistakes. This is your trust issues talking." I kept my eyes fixed on the road. The rhythmic thump-thump of the tires, the only sound I allowed myself to hear. He was driving his car, and I had insisted on the 30-minute separation in the vehicle. The silence was my only weapon. I didn't owe him an explanation, a scream, or a fight. I owed him nothing. When we pulled up to our shared house, he made one last desperate attempt. He grabbed my arm before I could open the door. "Don't go in there and pack, Sarah. Please, let's talk about this. Let's just pretend this never happened tonight." I turned and looked at his hand on my arm. "You are worried about me packing, Michael? I'm going to ruin more than your wardrobe. I'm going to ruin your narrative." I pulled my arm free and walked into the house, heading straight for my phone to call an Uber. I wasn't staying another night under the roof we built on lies, but first I had another message to send. I texted Eric back. "Me. I saw the photo. Thank you. Where is Clara right now?" Eric. Immediate response. "She's at a friend's place. I told her I found out. She admitted everything. She's devastated, but not about Michael. She's devastated that she got caught. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow." Me. "What are you doing about the baby?" Eric. "It changes nothing. If it's Michael's, he will be named on the birth certificate. I am done covering for either of them. I need to protect my own future. And Sarah, I am so sorry. For him, for her, for this mess. That apology coming from the betrayed brother was the only thing that felt remotely real that night. I saw an opportunity. Eric and I were two collateral victims, standing on the ruins of the two relationships Michael and Clara had simultaneously demolished. Me. Eric, Michael just proposed. He knew about the pregnancy. He tried to lock me down into a lie. I am leaving him tonight. I need your help to tell his parents. The response was swift. Done. When and where? I've been waiting for a reason to expose Michael's selfishness to Mom and Dad for years. This is a big one. The plan was simple, brutal, and utterly necessary. Michael's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, were traditional and obsessed with appearances. They had always adored me, seeing me as the stabilizing force their younger son desperately needed. Telling them I was not marrying Michael because he impregnated their daughter-in-law was not just news, it was a detonation. I decided to leave the house with just a suitcase and Barnaby, my dog. I didn't want the ring, the house, or anything connected to Michael. I called my best friend, Lisa, who thankfully lived across town and didn't ask questions. She just told me the door was unlocked. As I was loading the car, Michael emerged, tears streaming down his face, a pathetic shadow of the man who had proposed hours earlier. "Where are you going, Sarah?" "You can't just leave. We have a life." "No, Michael. I said, securing Barnaby in the back seat. "We had a life built on a foundation of quicksand. I am saving myself from sinking. You can figure out your baby mama drama on your own." "Don't call her that, she's family," he shouted, ironically defending the woman I was still trying to call just an escape. "She's your problem now. And I suggest you call your mother, because Eric and I are going to have a little chat with her and your father tomorrow morning. A chat about why your engagement lasted 30 seconds. I didn't wait for his reaction. I got into my car and drove away, leaving him standing on the driveway bathed in the sickly yellow glow of the porch light, looking utterly defeated. It wasn't pity I felt. It was a sense of profound cleansing release. The next morning, I met Eric at a coffee shop near his parents' house. He looked tired, pale but resolute. We reviewed our strategy. Keep it factual, let the evidence speak, and do not let Michael or Clara interrupt the core story. At 10 a.m., we walked into the stately home of Mr. and Mrs. Thompson. Mrs. Thompson immediately rushed over to hug me, excited about the good news she was sure we were bringing. "Oh, Sarah, my dear, you look radiant. Is it true? Did he finally ask?" Before I could say anything, Michael appeared, looking haggard and panicked. He must have driven straight over after I left. "Mom, Dad!" "Don't listen to her. It's not what you think. Sarah, don't do this." Mr. Thompson, always a man of order, held up a hand. "Michael, enough. Let Sarah speak. What is this about, dear?" I took a deep breath. My voice was steady, calm, and devastatingly clear. "Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, Michael did ask me to marry him last night." I said yes, but I broke off the engagement mere seconds later. "I am not marrying Michael because I found out he has been having a long-term affair with your daughter-in-law, Clara. She is pregnant, and Michael believes the baby is his. Eric has proof. I have the entire text exchange." The silence that followed wasn't just quiet. It was a vacuum, sucking the air out of the room. Mrs. Thompson slowly sank onto the sofa, her hand flying to her mouth. Mr. Thompson, the strong patriarch, visibly aged 10 years in that moment. Michael just stood there, speechless, finally realizing the full public consequence of his deception. Mrs. Thompson's reaction was exactly what Eric and I had anticipated. A dramatic, tearful collapse centered not on the emotional damage to me or Eric, but on the scandal to the family name. "No, no, Michael, how could you? What will the club say? What about the wedding planning we just started? The caterer, oh, the shame," she wailed, clutching a decorative pillow. Mr. Thompson, however, reacted with icy fury. His eyes were locked on Michael, and there was no shred of fatherly affection left. "You knew she was pregnant, and you tried to propose to Sarah anyway?" he asked, his voice low and dangerous. "You were going to bring shame to this family by having a bastard child with your own brother's wife, and then hide it behind a respectable wedding. Do you have any idea what this means, Michael?" Michael tried to mumble some pathetic excuse about true love and misunderstanding, but his father cut him off with a thunderous roar. "Silence. You have always been irresponsible, Michael, but this is a calculated act of deception that affects everyone. Eric, show me the proof." Eric, calm and methodical, handed his father his phone, displaying the text thread and the devastating photo of Michael and Clara. Mr. Thompson spent a long moment studying the screen. When he looked up, his face was set in stone. "Sarah," he said, turning to me, his stern gaze softening slightly, "I am truly sorry. You are a fine young woman, and you deserved better than this spineless deception. I apologize for my son's lack of character. That apology meant more than anything Michael could ever say. It was a validation of my truth in the court of the people who mattered most to Michael. "Thank you, Mr. Thompson," I replied, keeping my posture rigid. "I just wanted to make sure you had the facts before Michael could create a counter-narrative." And that was my cue. I had delivered the bomb. The aftermath was now the Thompson family's problem. I left the house, Eric following me out into the crisp autumn air. "That went exactly as planned," Eric murmured, a weary relief in his voice. "What happens now?" I asked, pausing on the driveway. "The implosion." Dad controls the family trust, and Michael is heavily dependent on his allowance and the promises of future inheritance. Dad will cut him off, not just financially, but socially. Michael cares about money and status more than anything. This is the only way he will truly feel the consequence. I looked at Eric, realizing the depth of his pain and his own calculated revenge. "What about Clara?" "I'm filing today. She's moving back to her parents. We will arrange for the DNA test once the baby is born. If it's Michael's, they can figure out the co-parenting nightmare. I am officially done with both of them." Our conversation solidified our strange alliance. We were two ships passing in the night, connected only by the toxic wake of a shared betrayer. We exchanged final, knowing glances, a silent promise of support if the drama escalated, and then we parted ways. My own life became a whirlwind of reclaiming independence. I changed my locks, had Michael's belongings moved into storage, which I informed him of via a single, cold email, and spent hours on the phone with my friends and family trying to explain the impossible truth. The hardest part was the whispers. The Thompson family was prominent, and the scandal didn't stay quiet for long. People I barely knew would call, wanting details. I stuck to my simple, devastating script. The engagement was called off. Michael impregnated his sister-in-law, and they are expecting a child. No embellishment was needed. The truth was sensational enough. A week later, I found myself sitting in my temporary apartment, staring at the empty wall, finally allowing myself to grieve. The grief wasn't for Michael. It was for the future he stole from me. The future with the house, the porch, and the dog named Barnaby. That perfect life was a cruel phantom. Suddenly, my phone rang. It was an unknown number, but the area code was local. I almost ignored it, but something compelled me to answer. "Hello?" A woman's voice, thick with suppressed tears, responded. "Is this Sarah? Sarah Miller?" "Yes, speaking." "This is Clara. I know you never want to hear from me, but I need to talk to you. I need to tell you the real reason Michael ended up in my bed. It's not about me being lonely. It's about something he's hiding that could ruin Eric, too. Something much darker than just infidelity." My heart began to pound again, but this time it was driven by fear, not love. Michael's infidelity was a deep wound, but Clara was implying the deception went far beyond their bed. She was hinting at a structural fault in Michael's entire life that might be about to bring down the whole Thompson dynasty. I realized I was just at the beginning of this story, not the end. I hesitated for a moment, gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles were white. Why was Clara calling me? The woman who had slept with my fiancé and was carrying his child now wanted to help me. Or was this another layer of manipulation? "Clara," I said, my voice cold, "I have no interest in your excuses. You both destroyed my life. Why should I believe anything you have to say?" Her voice was ragged. "Because I'm terrified." Michael is in trouble, real trouble, and he's dragging Eric down with him. The affair, it wasn't just about sex, it was about access. Access to what? Eric's investment portfolio. Michael didn't just work in finance, he was embezzling from a few clients and needed to cover the tracks. He was moving Eric's funds around to create a buffer. He used me to get Eric's laptop passwords and account details while Eric was out of town. The affair was his leverage. He threatened to tell Eric about us unless I gave him the information he needed to cover up his crime. I felt a dizzying wave of nausea. Infidelity was one thing, felony was another. Wait, I said, forcing myself to process the gravity of the claim. He committed financial fraud, and the only reason you slept with him was because he was blackmailing you with your own infidelity. No, she cried. The affair started genuinely, stupidly. But when he found out I was pregnant and I threatened to tell Eric, Michael changed the game. He revealed the financial hole he was in and demanded my silence and my help in exchange for his silence about the baby. If I helped him, he promised he would claim the baby was Eric's and we would all just go on. The proposal to you was his attempt to get stable income and clear himself financially before the authorities caught on. He was desperate. A chilling image of Michael standing on that cliff, his tears not of love but of financial terror, flashed in my mind. The proposal wasn't a guilty commitment. It was a desperate financial Hail Mary. I thanked Clara, hung up, and immediately called Eric. I repeated Clara's confession, slowly and deliberately. Eric was silent on the other end, his breathing heavy. I thought I was divorcing him for a broken heart, Sarah, Eric finally said, his voice hollow. Now I realize I'm divorcing him to save my reputation and possibly my freedom. I gave Michael power of attorney over my accounts when I was too busy with work. I trusted him with everything. If he used my funds for embezzlement, I am implicated. The game had fundamentally changed. This wasn't about drama, it was about criminal charges. Eric needed to protect himself, and Michael was the target. You need to go to your father immediately, Eric, I advised, my teacher voice surprisingly firm. He controls the family's legal counsel. You need to distance yourself from Michael's activities before the firm finds the discrepancy. Eric followed the advice. The result was swift and devastating. Mr. Thompson, faced with not just a family scandal, but a potential federal indictment, mobilized his legal team. They traced the unauthorized transfers, found the paper trail leading directly back to Michael's desperate cover-ups, and cut him off entirely. The final confrontation happened at the Thompson residence 2 days later. I wasn't invited, but Eric recounted the details to me. Michael had been stripped of his access, his credit cards, and his family support. His father had given him an ultimatum: turn himself in and cooperate, or face the full force of the family's lawyers, ensuring he took the maximum fall. The perfect fiancé was revealed to be a desperate, fraudulent man, willing to use anyone: his fiancé, his brother, his sister-in-law, even his unborn child, to maintain his facade of success. For me, the realization was the final nail in the coffin of my past. I wasn't just betrayed, I was narrowly saved from a life of financial and emotional ruin. The shock eventually gave way to profound gratitude. Gratitude to Eric, gratitude to Clara's desperate confession, and even gratitude to the universe for vibrating my phone at that perfect, awful moment. I never spoke to Michael again. The only closure I got was a text message from Eric a month later. Michael is cooperating with the authorities. Clara's baby is due in 4 months. The DNA test will happen. Our divorce is final. Thank you, Sarah. You saved us all. I deleted the text, deleted Eric's number, and deleted the memory of the sunset proposal. I had my dog, my job, and my integrity. I had lost a future, yes, but I had gained a truth that was invaluable. The sapphire ring remains somewhere in the dirt beneath that coastal cliff, a monument to a beautiful lie. I'm okay with that, because sometimes the end of a fairy tale is the beginning of a truly real life. And my real life, thank God, does not include Michael. Thank you for listening to this difficult confession. We are so grateful to share these stories with you. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments section below.